From the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Good morning, security gang. Welcome to another episode of the CyberHub Podcast. Obviously, still on the road, but nonetheless, we're wrapping up this week. It's our last show for the week, Thursday, November 14th, 2024. We've got a packed show, including finally the FBI and CISA releasing a statement regarding the massive telecom breach we've been reporting on for the last several weeks here on the show. Not a lot there, but some stuff there. We'll get into that today, as well as a Windows Zeroday and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Subscribe. Stay tuned. Let's get the ball rolling. And before we do that, obviously, traveling very early where I'm at. I'm somewhere and it's early. And so no coffee cup cheers from my end this morning, but coffee cup cheers to all of y'all joining the show. Let's go ahead and get the ball rolling. So CISA and FBI are now confirming that Chinese hackers compromised the private communication of a limited number of government officials after breaching multiple U.S. broadband providers. They say that the attackers stole other information from the company's compromised systems, including information related to customer call records and law enforcement requests. We talked about that early on in the show. One of the first things the Wall Street Journal had reported on was the Chinese getting into wiretap requests and wiretap lines that law enforcement had already existing on the telecom network. So this comes after CISA and FBI confirmed the hack back in late October after reports that Typhoon breached multiple broadband providers like AT&T, Verizon, and Lumen Technologies. Today's joint statement confirms reports that the threat group had access to U.S. federal government systems used for court-authorized network wiretapping requests. So the information is starting to trickle out here with the impact of this specific attack. The Chinese hackers, according to the statement, and the Wall Street Journal says that for months or longer, the hackers had access, which allowed them to collect vast amount of internet traffic from ISPs that count business large and small and millions of Americans as their customers. Canada also revealed that the China-backed threat actor targeted many Canadian government agencies and departments in a broad network scan, including political parties, the Senate, and House of Commons. So all in all, we're seeing Typhoon and the Chinese really go at Telecom, while Typhoon has been focused on the energy sector as well. And we see that there. The statement here, by the way, is available. This is the full statement, very, very short, by the FBI. And they say if you believe you were a victim, to engage your local FBI office or your local CISA contacts with this story. And again, this story is significant, folks. We haven't reached the tip of the iceberg of the story. They're kind of there's small drips of information coming out. Speaking to people that are familiar with the matter, on condition of anonymity, what I've been hearing is that the tip of the iceberg here has not yet been seen. They're essentially still investigating. They're still identifying the scope of this, and there's a lot of resources that are going into this and how to deal with it as well. But what we do know for sure is that the Secretary of State coming in, currently Anthony Blinken, but right now nominated by President-elect Trump, Marco Rubio, as well as the DOD and DHS will have their hands full having to deal with the fallout and of this specific data breach here as well. The business contact information for 122 million people that's been circulating online since February of 2024 is now been confirmed to data that came from Demand Science, formerly Purely Incubation, a B2B demand generation company that does data aggregation. The process of collecting, compiling, and organizing data from public sources to create a comprehensive database valuable for digital marketers and advertisers. In the case of Demand Science, the firm collected business data from public sources and third parties, including full names, physical addresses, email addresses, telephone numbers, job titles, and functions, as well as social media link. A threat actor by the name of Krypton Zambi began selling 132.8 million records back in February of this year on breach forums, claiming that the stolen data came from an exposed system belonging to Pure Incubation. At the time, Bleeping Computer contacted Demand Science about the stolen data and was told that there's no evidence of a breach. Now, in November, they've finally come forth and said that they now are a victim of the breach and that the data is legitimate. Krypton Zombie made the database available for 8 credits, which corresponds to a few dollars, essentially leaking the data for absolutely free. Troy Hunt published a blog post confirming the data is authentic, stating someone exposed in the leak contacted Demand Science and was told that the leaked data originated from a system that had been decommissioned 2 years ago. Regarding the matter referenced in your email, we have conducted a thorough internal investigation and concluded that none of our current operational systems were exploited. If you left a database open or you moved stuff over and you decommissioned a system and you didn't wipe it, that's a data breach. Sorry, data breach. There's that. So you may need some help defining that, but you're absolutely a data breach victim, and you're absolutely responsible for that data. So we'll see if they take responsibility. Right now, they're kind of saying like it was a system we decommissioned. It's almost like it's not our responsibility, but it absolutely is. And Demand Science will have to answer to that data breach. Yesterday, we talked about Patch Tuesday. Well, now we know that a newly patched zero-day vulnerability in Windows, that's CVE 2024-43451, that's a medium severity flaw that impacts the MS-HTM engine, which continues to be used through a web browser controlled by Edge or Internet Explorer mode and other application, exposing them to any security defects plaguing the component. Apparently, with minimal interaction from the user, such as deleting a file or right-clicking on it, Clear Sky warns it's being exploited by Russian threat actors. According to Clear Sky, which identified the flaw and reported it to Microsoft, seemingly innocuous actions that could trigger an exploit hidden in the URL file, including deleting the file and drag and dropping the file to another action, would trigger exploitation. In the wild, exploitation is being suspected to be by Russian threat actors targeting Ukrainian entities as part of the ongoing, now almost entering 3 years for the war in the Ukraine. The victims would receive phishing emails originating from a compromised Ukrainian government server that prompted them to renew their academic certificates. The emails directed the victims to a malicious zip file downloaded from the official government site. The archive contained 2 files, a PDF and a URL file. They would target 2 known vulnerabilities, CVE 2023-320462 and CVE 2023-360251. The URL, which directs to an external server to fetch 2 executables, was also designed to exploit the newly disclosed zero-day vulnerabilities. So Clear Sky suggests that the newly detected vulnerability is more exploitable on Windows 10 and 11 rather than old one, and the CERT is approaching this as an exploited zero-day vulnerability. So you want to make sure you get that patched up. Again, 0 days, within 20 to 30 minutes of a 0 day being reported, there's already active scanning and there's exploits being written. And within 24 to 36 hours, we typically see activity against those endpoints. So just be very, very mindful of that. You want to mitigate as much as you possibly can until you can get your patch in play. Intel and AMD have joined the Patch Tuesday security advisories, informing customers about vulnerabilities found in their products. Intel released 44 new advisories for over 80 vulnerabilities, including 20 of which are high severity issues. The high severity vulnerabilities impacted products like the server board S2600ST and S2600BP, some of their graphic drivers, neural compressors, computing improvement programs, Xeon and other processors, Lice Check and Trusted module, endpoint management assistant, driver support assistance, and extension for transformers. So some of those are there. AMD published 8 new advisories. 4 of them cover incorrect default permission vulnerabilities discovered by a researcher who uses the online moniker Pawnee in the HIP SD cloud manageability service, the Ryzen Master Monitoring SDK, and Ryzen Master Utility and Provisioning Council. So all of those have been patched. They've also released a advisory for a cache-based side channel attack against secure encrypted virtualization discovered by researchers at the National Taiwan University. So all in all, you want to make sure you get these patched up as soon as you possibly can. Avanti also joined the party, closing 50 different vulnerabilities and patching those up, including 8 critical severity bugs in their Connect Secure, Policy Secure, and Endpoint Manager. These CVEs 2024-38655, 38656, 39710, 39712, and then 11005 and 11007 are described as arguments and command injection flaws that could allow an authenticated attackers with admin privileges to achieve remote code execution. Again, those are high complexity attacks because they've got to be an authenticated user and attacker, and they've got to have admin privileges to achieve remote code execution. Ivanti also patched the bugs in Connect Secure version 22.7R2.3 and Policy Secure version 22.7R1.2, which also includes fixes for 8 high severity and 2 medium severity bugs that could lead to privilege escalation and denial of service conditions, as well as remote code execution. They also drew attention to 5 high severity and 2 medium severity vulnerabilities in the secure access client that could be exploited to escalate privileges, tamper with sensitive config files, arbitrary folder creation, and denial of service conditions. All in all, you want to make sure you get those done as well. One final CVE is 2024-50330. That's got a CVSS score of 9.8, and it's an SQL injection vulnerability. The bug was reported by Piotr Bazaldo of Trend Micro's Zeroday initiative. All in all, you want to make sure you get those patched up. jamescesar.substack.com is where you can find all of our awesome content, as well as exclusive writings, including our Saturday articles, which come out Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern. Gives you the ability, as you're enjoying your morning coffee, to kind of do a deep dive. Last week, we talked about what to expect from in cybersecurity from a second Trump presidency based on his policies, speeches, and all of that. We really did a deep dive there. This week, we've got something very special brewing, so don't go anywhere. Make sure you go and subscribe. It's absolutely free, and also make sure to subscribe us wherever you're watching right now, whether it be X, YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook, or Twitch. Just make sure to subscribe, follow us there, or on your favorite podcast listening platform. Attackers now target a critical severity vulnerability with publicly available exploit code that affects multiple models of the end-of-life D-Link network attached storage devices. CVE 2024-109R14. The command injection vulnerability was found by security researchers NetSecFish, who also shared the exploitation details and said an unauthenticated attacker could exploit it to inject arbitrary shell commands by sending malicious HTTP GET requests to vulnerable NAS devices exposed online. This impacts models DNS 320 version 1, DNS 320 LW version 1.01.09 or 14.2012, DNS 325 version 101, version 102, and DNS 340L version 108. The attacks started after D-Link said on Friday it wouldn't fix the flaw because it only impacts end-of-life NAS models, warning customers to retire the affected devices or upgrade them to newer products. And again, that's part of where a lot of these companies just don't see the benefit of investing the time and money to go ahead and patch those up, and they just say, go buy a new one. So, being that this is a zero-day and a significant vulnerability, I would say that this critical bug is something where you definitely want to upgrade those devices and those NAS devices if you have them in your small business or at home or wherever. You want to upgrade them and maybe not use a D-Link this time, since that's the kind of attitude. Also, we move to China and some of the geopolitical stuff that's going on, including China's APT-41 using sophisticated Windows-based surveillance toolkit in a cyber espionage campaign that's targeted organization in South Asia. The malware adds to the already broad portfolio of malicious tools that the threat actors have deployed in recent years and makes APT-41 a more pernicious threat to targeted enterprise. The people who found this were researchers at BlackBerry that were tracking the threat actor and spotted the new malware toolkit earlier this year. They've dubbed it Deep Data Framework. Their analysis showed it to be a highly modular toolkit that supports as many as 12 separate plugins, each one optimized for a specific malicious function. 4 of the plugins could steal communications from WhatsApp, Signal, Telegram, and WeChat. Another 3 are rigged to steal and exfiltrate system information, Wi-Fi network data, and information on all installed applications on the compromised systems. Some include names and even installation path. 3 deep data plugins steal information related to browsing histories and cookies. They also grab passwords from web browsers. That's why you never store your passwords on web browsers. Get a password manager. That's the safest thing you could do. They'll also look at BIDO storage services, Foxmail, and other cloud services. Again, services that are extremely popular in Asia and in South Asia specifically. Other information like user email and contact list in Microsoft Outlook. And then the remaining 2 plugins enable the theft of audio files from compromised systems. BlackBerry researchers chanced upon deep data when conducting an investigation of Light Spy, and that's where they came out from it. The surveillance powers of deep data continue to grow as they add more and more modulars. APT41 is known as Wicked Spider or Wicked Panda, but they are a significant threat actor, and it's worthy to kind of deep dive into this, especially if you have operations in South Asia, right? So this is primarily now targeting South Asia. It's not targeting the US or Europe. So as a CISO, when you look at this type of information, or as a cybersecurity practitioner, you say, do I have assets in South Asia? Yes. Let's now study this kind of campaign. Let's look at the C2 infrastructure. Let's understand the IP addresses, the modus operandi, and then let's go through our logs potentially to see if we've been potentially impacted by APT41. So that's the proper kind of reaction to a story like this one. NIST on Wednesday shared an update about its progress clearing the CVE backlog in the National Vulnerability Database, explaining why it was not able to meet a self-imposed deadline. There was a backlog of over 18,000 vulnerabilities that over the next few months, NIST said in late May, will try to get through. Unfortunately, that did not happen. However, Vulnerability Management Phone Check reported in late September that 72% of the 18,000 CVEs had yet to be analyzed, compared to 93% on May 19th. Nearly half of the known exploited vulnerabilities have yet to be analyzed. In an update shared on Wednesday, NIST said it now has a full team of analysts on board, and they are able to analyze all CVEs as they come in. The agency said the KEV backlog has been addressed. However, NIST admitted that its initial estimate of September 30th for clearing the entire backlog was a bit too optimistic. They believe that now they've got it under control, so we trust them to get that done. And finally, the U.S. Department of Justice has unsealed the indictment against the 2 snowflake attackers that breached 165 organizations and allegedly made out with just about $2.5 million. Connor Riley Mushaka and John Aaron Baines are accused of using credentials obtained with the help of info-stealing malware to hijack Snowflake accounts that were not protected by MFA. Mushaka and Baines exfiltrated terabytes of data from various companies and demanded ransom payments in exchange for deleting the stolen information. According to the indictment, the 2 attackers stole information of approximately 50 billion customers' call and text records from a major telecom company in the U.S. One company fitting the profile that suffered a major data breach in the same time frame is AT&T. AT&T disclosed that back in July of this year. As per the indictment, Mushaka and Baines received around mid-May a ransom payment from the telco provider in the form of crypto. They tried to hide the source and destination of the funds through a complex series of cryptocurrency transactions, when included converting the money into Monroe crypto. The court documents notes that the 2 attackers and their co-conspirators extorted 3 victims for at least 36 Bitcoins or $2.5 million at the time of the transaction. Obviously, Bitcoin right now is at $93,000. So that's significant. And there's a whole bunch of stuff there. So Mushaka, for his end, was arrested in late October in Canada at the request of the U.S. The other attacker was arrested in Turkey this year in May, and his name is John Aaron Baines, who in 2021 claimed the major attack on T-Mobile and mocked the company's security in interviews to the media. The 2 face multiple counts for various cybercrime charges, including wire fraud, securities frauds, conspiracy to commit fraud, unauthorized access, and breach of computer systems, data theft, and privacy violation. If convicted, they could face significant prison sentences, as the announced charges carry anything from 5 to 25 years of imprisonment each, or a total of 60 years. Additionally, the 2 will have their assets and proceeds seized by the government, including bank accounts, vehicles, real estate, and other valuables obtained as a result of their offenses. So there's that. That's it for our show this morning. We'll be back Monday, 9 a.m. Eastern, live with all the latest and greatest. Until then, please make sure to subscribe, follow us on your favorite social media platforms, and most importantly, y'all, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.